You ever find yourself wondering if everyone else has it figured out except you? You see the new cars, the vacations, the house upgrades, and you start asking yourself, am I the only one who's struggling here? Am I falling behind? Is everyone else secretly crushing it while I'm just surviving? Today we're pulling back the curtain. We're going to look at the actual numbers, not the highlight reel you see on social media, not the stories people tell at dinner parties. The real data on what the average American's finances actually look like. Some of these numbers might make you feel better. Some might terrify you. But either way, by the end of this video, you'll know exactly where you stand. And more importantly, you'll know what you need to do to get ahead. Here's the thing about money. Most of us have no idea what normal actually looks like. We have assumptions based on what we see around us. But what we see is filtered. It's curated. It's the version of people's lives they want us to see. Your coworker who just bought a new truck? You don't know how much debt they took on to get it. Your neighbor who went on that expensive vacation? You don't know if they put it on a credit card they're still paying off. Your friend who just bought a house? You don't know if their parents helped with the down payment. We compare our behind the scenes to everyone else's highlight reel. And then we feel like we're failing. But the truth is, most people are struggling more than they let on. So let's stop guessing. Let's stop comparing ourselves to the curated versions of other people's lives. Let's look at the actual data, the real numbers. What does the average American actually earn? What do they actually save? What does their financial life actually look like when you strip away the performance? Understanding these numbers isn't just about satisfying curiosity. It's about giving you a realistic benchmark, a starting point. If you're trying to get in shape, you need to know what the average person weighs. If you're trying to build wealth, you need to know what the average person has saved. You can't beat the game if you don't know the score. So let's look at the scoreboard. Let's start with the most basic question. How much does the average American actually earn? According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the median weekly earnings for a full-time worker is just over $1,000. That's about $52,000 per year, before taxes. Now, let's be clear about what this number means. This is individual income, not household income. Half of full-time workers earn more than this. Half earn less. This is the middle, the 50th percentile. If you're making around $26 an hour, you're right in the middle of the pack. That's where the average full-time worker sits. But here's where it gets interesting. That $52,000 sounds like a nice round number, but it's before Uncle Sam takes his cut. After federal taxes, state taxes, Social Security, and Medicare, that number shrinks significantly. Depending on where you live, your take-home pay might be somewhere between $35,000 and $40,000. Suddenly, that $52,000 doesn't feel like as much, does it? That's the reality of what most people actually have to live on. Now, you might be thinking, that's just individual income. What about households? Two people working changes the picture. The median household income in America is around $84,000. That's two people often working, sometimes more. But even that number, after taxes, comes down to maybe $65,000 to $70,000 of actual spending money for a family. When you do the math, you start to understand why so many people feel like they're running in place. The money comes in, the government takes a chunk, and what's left has to cover everything. But income is just one piece of the puzzle. What really matters is what people do with the money once they earn it. Now let's talk about something that keeps financial advisors up at night: retirement savings. According to the Federal Reserve's latest data, the median amount that Americans have saved for retirement is about $65,000. That's across all age groups who actually have retirement accounts. But here's the kicker. About 1 in 4 Americans doesn't have any retirement savings at all. $0. They're planning to rely entirely on Social Security when they stop working. 1 out of every 4 people you pass on the street has nothing saved for retirement. Nothing. And they're hoping it works out. For those who do have retirement savings, the numbers vary dramatically by age, and some of them are pretty alarming. People under 25 have a median balance of less than $2,000. Now, if you're 23 and just starting your career, having $2,000 saved isn't terrible, but it does highlight how important it is to start early. The 25 to 34 age group does a bit better with a median balance around $14,000. But even that amount seems pretty small when you consider that these are people who have been working for several years and should be hitting their stride financially. By the time we get to the 35 to 44 crowd, the median balance climbs to about $35,000. The 45 to 54 group hits around $60,000, and the 55 to 64 group reaches about $88,000. Let's put that last number in perspective. If you retire with $88,000 and follow the traditional 4% withdrawal rule, you'd be able to pull out about $3,500 per year from your retirement accounts. That's less than $300 per month. $300 a month. Think about that for a second. Could you live on $300 a month in retirement? Even if you own your home outright and have no mortgage, $300 wouldn't cover your groceries, utilities, healthcare, and everything else you need to survive. The average person is not saving enough. Not even close. And if you're in your 20s, 30s, or 40s looking at these numbers, you should be having a serious conversation with yourself about whether you're on track. Now let's shift gears and talk about something that affects your day-to-day life right now. Spending. How much does the average household actually spend each month? According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, American households spend an average of about $5,600 per month. Over a year, that adds up to roughly $67,000 in total spending. Think about what this means. The average household is spending more than the median individual earns, which means for most families, it takes two incomes just to break even. Let's break down where that $5,600 goes. And this is where things get interesting. The biggest chunk goes to housing. The average household spends about $1,885 per month on housing costs. That's rent or mortgage, property taxes, insurance, utilities, and maintenance. $1,885 per month on housing. That's over $22,000 per year just to keep a roof over your head. And if you're living in a major city like New York, San Francisco, or Los Angeles, you're probably laughing at how low that number sounds. In those places, $1,800 might get you a closet with a window. Food comes in as the second biggest expense for most households. The average family spends about $690 per month on groceries and dining out. That's over $8,000 per year just to keep everyone fed. If you're spending less than $700 a month feeding your family, you're either doing something right or you've mastered the art of living on ramen noodles and PB&J. Transportation eats up another $900 per month. That's car payments, insurance, gas, maintenance, and public transportation, nearly $11,000 per year just to get from point A to point B. Here's the part that should make you think. When you add up housing and transportation, you're already at $2,800 per month. That's half of the average household spending right there, before you've bought food, paid for insurance, or done anything else. No wonder so many people feel like they're living paycheck to paycheck. The big expenses eat up so much that there's barely anything left for the small stuff. Now let's talk about something that makes all of these numbers worse. Something that quietly destroys wealth for millions of Americans. Credit card debt. The average household is carrying over $9,000 in credit card debt. Let that number sink in for a second. $9,000. Not a car loan where you have something to show for it. Not a mortgage where you're building equity. Just $9,000 of stuff. Most of it probably sitting in closets, gathering dust, or already thrown away. What makes this even more painful is the interest rates. Credit cards charge 15, 20, sometimes 25% or higher. If you're paying 20% interest on $9,000, you're throwing away $1,800 per year just in interest payments. That's $1,800 that could be going toward building wealth. Instead, it's making credit card companies rich. You know what's a great way to build wealth? Not paying 20% interest on stuff you bought 2 years ago and don't even remember buying. Here's the thing that really gets me about credit card debt. Most of it comes from buying things people don't actually need. Sure, sometimes people use credit cards for emergencies. But let's be honest, a lot of that $9,000 went toward clothes, electronics, dinners out, online shopping sprees, and impulse purchases. The solution is straightforward, even if it's not always easy. Pay off your credit card balances in full every single month. If you can't afford to pay cash for something, don't put it on a credit card unless it's a genuine emergency. And if you're already carrying a balance, make paying it off your top financial priority, even before you start investing. Because there's no point in earning 7% in the stock market if you're paying 20% on credit card debt. Now let's look at the big picture. The number that probably tells you more about your financial health than any other single metric. Net worth. Net worth is simple. It's everything you own minus everything you owe. Your house, your car, your bank accounts, your retirement accounts. Subtract your mortgage, your credit card debt, your student loans, and anything else you owe. Whatever's left is your net worth. According to the Federal Reserve, the median net worth for American households is about $122,000. That's the middle. Half of households have more, half have less. But just like with retirement savings, this number varies dramatically by age, and some of the breakdowns are pretty eye-opening. If you're under 35, the median net worth is less than $14,000. Now, if you're 25 years old and just starting your career, having $14,000 in net worth isn't terrible. But if you're 34 and still sitting at $14,000, you might want to have a serious conversation with yourself about your financial trajectory. The 35 to 44 age group has a median net worth of about $91,000. The 45 to 54 crowd hits $168,000. People between 55 and 64 have a median net worth of $212,000, and those 65 to 74 years old hit $266,000. Here's what I find fascinating about these numbers. They're actually pretty achievable for most people with decent incomes and basic financial discipline. You don't need to be a stock market genius. You don't need to start the next big tech company. You just need to consistently spend less than you earn and invest the difference. But here's the other side of this coin. If you're 45 and your net worth is nowhere near $168,000, you're not alone. The median means half of people are below that number, but you also have some catching up to do. The good news? It's not too late. The key is to start now, because the most important factor in building wealth isn't how much you make, it's how early you start and how consistent you are. Let's talk about something that might be the most important number in this entire video, the savings rate. How much of their income is the average person actually setting aside? The Bureau of Economic Analysis tracks this number closely, and right now, Americans save about 6% of their income after taxes. That's it, 6%. Now, 6% might not sound terrible, but let's think about what this really means. If you're saving 6% of your income, and some of that needs to go towards short-term goals like buying a car or making a down payment on a house, there's not much left over for long-term wealth building. Consider this. The average down payment on a home is over $60,000. The average kitchen renovation costs $26,000. A new car averages over $47,000. If you're only saving 6% of your income and you need to fund all these shorter-term goals, how much is actually making it into your retirement accounts? Spoiler alert, not enough. Most financial experts suggest saving at least 10% to 15% of your income specifically for retirement. And that's on top of whatever you're setting aside for other goals. If you want to retire early and not have to work until you're 70, you probably need to be saving even more than that. Here's the thing that should scare you. The average person isn't saving enough for retirement. The average person isn't even close. And if you're doing what the average person does, you're going to end up where the average person ends up. And where does the average person end up? With $88,000 in retirement savings and $300 a month to live on. This brings us to something that might surprise you. When do most people actually stop working? If you guessed 65, you'd be close. But the actual average retirement age in America is 61. People are retiring earlier than you might think. Now that might sound pretty good at first. Who wouldn't want to retire at 61 and spend their golden years doing whatever they want? But here's the catch. Most people can't collect their full Social Security benefits until age 67, so if you're retiring at 61, you've got 6 years to bridge that gap somehow. And if your retirement savings look anything like those median numbers we talked about, those 6 years might be pretty lean. Let's do the math on this. If you start working at 22 and retire at 61, you've been in the workforce for 39 years. Nearly 4 decades of getting up early, commuting, dealing with bosses, sitting in meetings, and doing whatever it is you do to earn a paycheck. After all that time, you finally get to retire, and you've got maybe $88,000 in your retirement account, which, as we already calculated, gives you about $300 per month to live on, plus Social Security, which averages about $1,500 per month. So you're looking at maybe $1,800 a month, combined, to live on for the rest of your life. Does that sound like the retirement you've been dreaming about? Because honestly, it sounds like a pretty raw deal to me. But here's where it gets even more interesting. The Social Security Administration says that someone who reaches age 65 can expect to live another 19 to 21 years. So if you retire at 61, you might have 25 years or more of retirement to fund. 25 years is a long time. That's longer than most people's entire career up to that point. And here's the question that should keep you up at night. How many of those 25 retirement years are you going to be healthy enough to actually enjoy? At 61, there's a decent chance you're still in good shape. But what about at 71? At 81, time has a funny way of catching up with all of us, and the activities you can do at 65 might not be the same ones you can handle at 75. Here's what I find most interesting about all these numbers. They reveal a gap, a massive gap between what people say they want and what they actually do. Everyone says they want financial security. Everyone says they want to retire comfortably. Everyone says they want to stop worrying about money, but the average person's behavior doesn't match up with these goals. Maybe that's because most people don't actually know what average looks like. Maybe they assume everyone else has their financial act together, so they don't feel any urgency to change their own habits. Or maybe they know they should be doing better, but they don't know where to start. Or they think it's too late to make a difference. Spoiler alert, it's not too late. It's almost never too late. But the longer you wait, the harder it gets. Here's the thing that should give you hope. You don't need to be extraordinary to beat these averages. You just need to be intentional. You just need to do the things that most people know they should do but never actually do. Save more than 6% of your income. Avoid credit card debt. Invest consistently in low-cost index funds. Start early and stay consistent. None of this is complicated. None of this requires a PhD in finance. It just requires discipline and the willingness to do what most people won't. Let's bring this all together with a quick recap. 1. The median individual income is about $52,000 per year before taxes. After taxes, it's closer to $35,000 to $40,000. 2. The median retirement savings is about $65,000 across all ages. 1 in 4 Americans has nothing saved for retirement. 3. The average household spends about $5,600 per month. Housing takes $1,900. Transportation takes $900. Food takes $700. 4. The average household carries over $9,000 in credit card debt at 20% interest. That's $1,800 a year in interest alone. 5. The median net worth is $122,000, but it varies dramatically by age. Under 35, $14,000. 55 to 64, $212,000. 65 to 74, $266,000. 6. The average savings rate is only 6%. Financial experts recommend 10% to 15% for retirement alone. 7. The average retirement age is 61. With $88,000 in savings and $1,500 in Social Security, you're looking at about $1,800 a month to live on for 25 years. Now here's the thing that should give you hope. Beating the average is not that hard. The bar is not set very high. If you're consistently saving more than 6% of your income, you're already ahead of most people. If you're avoiding credit card debt, you're way ahead of the game. If you're actually investing in retirement accounts on a regular basis, you're lapping the competition. The reality is that most of these statistics are pretty easy to beat with some basic financial discipline. You don't need to earn a 6-figure salary. You don't need to inherit money. You just need to be more intentional with your money than the average person. And honestly, that bar is on the floor. Think about it this way. If the average household is spending $5,600 per month and you can figure out how to live comfortably on $4,600 per month, you've just freed up $12,000 per year for savings and investments. Do that consistently for a few decades and you'll be in a completely different financial league than most of your peers. The same principle applies to all of these statistics. Beat the average by a little bit in multiple areas, and the compound effect over time becomes massive. Earn a bit more than $52,000. Save more than 6%. Avoid credit card debt. Invest consistently in low-cost index funds. Start early, stay consistent. Do those things and you won't be average. You'll be ahead, way ahead. If you're watching this video and some of these statistics hit a little too close to home, don't panic. The fact that you're here, learning about money, trying to understand your financial situation, already puts you ahead of a lot of people. Most folks never even take the time to figure out where they stand. Use these numbers as motivation, not as an excuse to give up. If you're 35 with less than $14,000 in net worth, that doesn't mean you're doomed. It means you have some work to do, but you also have 30 years or more to get it right. If you're already doing better than these averages in some areas, don't get complacent. Maybe you have a solid credit score and no credit card debt, but your retirement savings are behind. Maybe you're great at saving money, but you're keeping it all in a savings account earning practically nothing. The bottom line is this: these numbers should be eye-opening, but they should also be empowering. When you know what normal looks like, you can make informed decisions about whether you want to be normal or whether you want to be better. Personally, I think you deserve better than retiring at 61 with $88,000 and hoping Social Security doesn't run out. You deserve better than carrying credit card debt and spending every dollar you earn. You deserve the peace of mind that comes with having your financial house in order. If this video helped you see where you stand, hit that like button. It helps more people find it. And subscribe if you want more videos about the real numbers behind personal finance. Not the highlight reel, the truth. Now I want to hear from you. Drop a comment and tell me, after seeing these numbers, where do you stand? Are you ahead of the averages? Behind? What's the one area you want to work on first? Be honest. Be specific. Let's fill the comments with real stories. Maybe your story will help someone else figure out where they stand. I read them. I'll be in there. Let's figure this out together. Thanks for watching. Know where you stand. Build where you want to go. See you in the next one.